Well, Amazon finally released the full trailer for the Fallout TV show, and people have had a lot to say about it, including me. I was really excited when the show was announced back in July 2020. After all, Fallout is my favorite video game series, with Fallout New Vegas being my favorite game ever. So, the idea of getting to see a live-action version of it was so exciting. Then we slowly got more information about the series as it was being filmed, and even more when the first teaser trailer dropped. And now we have the first full trailer. However, I will say that the more and more we learned about the show, the more I both grew excited and worried. There were so many things I enjoyed hearing, like that the show would take us back to the West Coast and feature familiar locations like Los Angeles. But at the same time, I was worried annoyed at some of the decisions made both in terms of production and story. With the show airing in full in just 1 month, I figured now was the perfect time to give my thoughts on the show from what we know now. This video will be split into 2 sections: what I like and what I don't like, am worried about. But before we begin, I'd like to remind you that this is just my personal opinions. You may like something I don't, or hate something I love. If so, leave your thoughts down in the comments. Now let's start with what I do like so far. The first thing I like is that the show isn't adapting one of the previous games. Most often when adapting something, the decision is made to just take a story that's already been done and redo it, only with a few changes. The Last of Us is a perfect example of this. Instead, they decided to continue and add to the world of Fallout with something truly their own, and I appreciate that. What's also great is that the show is taking us back to the West Coast. I was really happy when the location for the show was announced, since we've only had 3 games that take place on the West Coast, and 2 of them are over 25 years old. There's so much lore surrounding the West Coast and the factions there, with plenty of chances left to expand on it, which we are getting with locations like Vault 33 and Philly. I also have to give credit to the attempt to make everything as accurate as possible to the games. From the vault suits to the power armor and robots, it really does look like the games come to life, and in some cases they actually improved them a bit. From what we can see, Vault 33 has a more community-like feeling than any of the previous vaults. They have a huge garden with parties, and even furniture outside their homes. This honestly feels more like a survival shelter than the previous vaults in the franchise. Those, of course, there's probably a reason for that. I won't dawdle too long on the music, but the inclusion of classic songs is both accurate and appreciated. And now, we move on to the things I'm concerned about and don't like already. First off is the look of the show. I know I just got done praising the attempt at accuracy to the games, but the problem is that it looks a little half-assed. Everything I listed earlier was true, but then you have things like the Pip-Boy, which looks like a cosplayer's cheap-o interpretation of one. Then there's the vaults themselves, or more specifically the doors. While yes, they are similar to the design of Vault 76, here's the issue. Vault 76 was a special vault. It was meant to house the best and brightest, and made in honor of America's tricentenary. It was meant to have a different design, and if you look at all the other vaults in West Virginia, they don't have this design. So why do all the vaults in the show have them? Then there's the cars. They just look like old cars, which is not accurate to how they are portrayed in Fallout 4. They're supposed to look futuristic, like the concept cars of the 50s. Instead, they're just 50s cars. The same applies to so many other things in the background, like the plane in Philly, the terminals, and even the buildings in Los Angeles. They're all just wrong. But the biggest issue I have with the show is the Brotherhood of Steel. Now, of course, since it's Fallout's first step into live action, and it takes place on the West Coast, you have to have the Brotherhood in it. However, the Brotherhood we see is not the West Coast chapter. It's the East Coast chapter in almost every detail. The West Coast chapter is isolationist, small, and focused on the preservation of technology. But what we see in the trailers is a Brotherhood that is militaristic, powerful, and set on bringing peace and order to the wasteland. They use T-60 power armor instead of T-51B. They even have an airship that's a direct replica of the Prydwen. That being said, there is one way that I can see the West Coast Brotherhood being like this that actually makes sense. There's a theory going around that the airship seen in the trailer was built by the East Coast Brotherhood, and that a detachment of soldiers has been sent to the West Coast to bolster the strength of the Brotherhood in order to help them in their war against the NCR. If that is the case, then I can understand and accept the Brotherhood being different than previously portrayed. Oh, now that I've mentioned it, I might as well talk about the NCR. Where are they? By the events of Fallout, New Vegas, the NCR was said to be the most powerful faction on the West Coast. They had a working government, trade routes, towns, even their own currency. While stretched thin, they were still a force to be reckoned with, especially in California. But so far, we've barely seen anything related to the NCR. Except for one scene in the trailer, they're almost completely absent. Seeing as the show takes place in the LA Boneyard, one of the NCR's territories, it makes you wonder why they aren't as prevalent as the Brotherhood, who was shown to be weaker and at war with them previously. One theory going around, based on a shot from the trailer, is that the NCR got nuked after the events of Fallout, New Vegas. If that is the case, then I, for one, will be furious. All signs pointed to an NCR victory in New Vegas, so seeing them reduced to almost nothing while the Brotherhood thrives goes against everything that was established previously. I truly hope the NCR has only been pushed out of Los Angeles and will make a grand return at the end of the season to take back the city and bring true law and order with them, but only time will tell. I will say, even with all the negatives and worries I have after seeing the trailers, I'm still really excited for this show. If done correctly, this could easily become my favorite video game adaptation, and who knows, maybe we could even get other seasons or shows that take place in locations we haven't seen before. I'd sure love to see a Fallout story set in my home state. Anyway, that's all I have to say on the matter, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think in the comments. And so, until next time, people, ta-ta, and goodbye for now.